Imagine someone you love more than anything in this world is lying in a bed, eyes closed, body still, no response, no words, no sign that they can hear you or even know you are there. Now imagine sitting beside that bed, not for one day, not for 1 month, not for 1 year, but for 19 years, talking to them anyway, holding their hand anyway, believing in them anyway, every single week, without fail, without giving up, without ever stopping. This is not a movie, this is not fiction, this is the true story of Jody Wallis, a mother who refused to give up on her son, and the one word that made 19 years of silence completely worth it. Stay with me. July 13th, 1984. A small town called Big Flat in Stone County, Arkansas. A quiet place, a simple place. The kind of town where life moves slowly and everybody knows everybody's name. Terry Wayne Wallis was 20 years old, born on April 7th, 1964. He was young, full of energy, and had just become a father 6 weeks earlier to a baby girl named Amber. 6 weeks of being a dad. That was all he got. Because on that afternoon in July, the pickup truck Terry was riding in veered off the road and plunged down into a creek. The crash killed his friend instantly. Terry survived, but the traumatic brain injury he suffered was catastrophic. He was rushed to hospital. Doctors fought to save his life, and technically, they succeeded. His heart kept beating, his lungs kept breathing. But Terry, the young father, the son, the man, was gone, locked inside a body that would not respond. Doctors determined he had fallen into a minimally conscious state after the traumatic brain injury, and their professional opinion was clear: his condition was permanent. He would never wake up. He would never speak again. That was what the medical world believed, Facebook. But his mother believed something completely different. Jody Wallis made a decision the day her son was admitted that most people would find impossible to sustain. She would not give up. Not today, not next year, not ever. His mother and all of his family cared for him relentlessly during his coma, and afterwards, his family would bring him home on alternate weekends for years. The Hoover's son think about what that actually means. Every other weekend, they brought Terry home, into familiar surroundings, surrounded by the sounds and smells of family, by the voices of people who loved him, by the life he had lived before that July afternoon, week after week, month after month, year after year. While the world moved on, while his daughter Amber grew from a newborn baby into a teenager, Jody Wallis sat beside her son, talked to him, touched his hand, read to him, played music, told him about the family, about what was happening in the world outside, never knowing if he could hear a single word, never knowing if any of it was reaching him, but never, not once, stopping. 19 years. That is 6,935 days. Every single one of them, Jody Wallis showed up for her son. And what scientists discovered later made her devotion even more extraordinary, because it turns out she may not have just been loving him through those years. She may have literally been keeping his brain alive. June 11th, 2003, almost 19 years after the accident in Stone County, Arkansas, Terry Wallis suddenly began speaking. Facebook. A nurse was going about her morning routine at the Stone County Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. Jody Wallis walked through the door, just like she had done hundreds and hundreds of times before. The nurse turned to Terry and asked, "Who is this woman walking toward you?" There was a pause, and then, from a man who had not produced a meaningful word in 19 years, came one sound. On screen, black screen, single word in large white text. Mom. Complete silence, hold for 4 seconds, then soft piano begins. The nurse froze, Jody Wallis froze, and then the room simply fell apart with emotion. He started out with Mom and surprised her, and then it was Pepsi, and then it was milk. The Hoover son. Over the next 3 days, in what doctors called an awakening period, Terry kept speaking, more words, more recognition, more of Terry coming back, piece by piece. But there was one detail that captured the hearts of people around the entire world. For Terry, the world had stopped with the accident. He believed Ronald Reagan was still president. He requested a call to his grandmother, who had died several years earlier, the Hoover's son. In his mind, no time had passed at all. He still thought he was 20 years old. He still thought it was 1984, and the baby daughter he had held for just 6 weeks was now a 19-year-old young woman standing in front of him, and he had missed every single moment of her growing up. The word mom, after 19 years of silence, was the word that broke open the world. But how? How does a human, after 19 years, suddenly come back to life? Scientists around the world wanted to know the same thing, and what they discovered changed the field of neuroscience forever. Before his passing, Terry had been the subject of a major study that examined how the brain could repair itself after being damaged. Facebook. Using a revolutionary brain scanning technique called diffusion tensor imaging, researchers were able to look inside Terry's brain and see what had happened during those 19 silent years. What they found was extraordinary. Terry's brain had not simply been sitting dormant, it had been quietly, slowly rebuilding itself, growing new neural connections, rerouting pathways around the damaged areas, essentially rewiring from scratch over nearly 2 decades. And here's the part that made doctors stop completely. Doctors believed that the stimulation provided by his family, bringing him home, talking to him, surrounding him with familiar voices, contributed directly to his awakening period. The Hoover's son. Every visit Jody made, every word she spoke to her son, every weekend she brought him home. It was not just love, it was medicine. It was the very stimulus that was feeding his recovering brain and helping it find its way back. Jody Wallis was not just a devoted mother, she was, without knowing it, her son's most important doctor. Terry's recovery made him a celebrity. Camera crews from Japan and the United Kingdom came calling, as did journalists and talk shows, but he became a scientific legend as well. NPR Guinness World Records officially recognized his case as one of the most remarkable recoveries from a minimally conscious state ever documented in medical history. And the impact of his story on the medical world was profound and permanent. Before Terry Wallis, patients in long-term minimally conscious states were largely considered beyond hope. Families were quietly encouraged to accept the situation, to move on. After Terry Wallis, doctors began asking completely different questions. Could other patients be in minimally conscious states that had been misclassified? Could family stimulation, voices, touch, familiar environments, actively accelerate neural recovery? Could the human brain, given enough time and enough love, find its own way back? Terry answered all of those questions with one word: mom. Terry was known for his wonderful sense of humor. He loved to tease his sister. He enjoyed eating anything at any time and loved drinking Pepsi. The Hoover's son. He lived for 19 more years after his awakening, never fully recovering his physical abilities, but present, awake, connected, able to laugh, able to tease, able to drink his beloved Pepsi, able, in the most meaningful ways, to be there. Terry Wallis passed away in March 2022 at the age of 57. Facebook. His mother, Jody, the woman who never gave up, who showed up every single week for 19 years, who talked to her son when no one else believed he could hear, lived to see him come back, lived to hear him say her name, and what she left behind is something no medical textbook can fully capture, proof that love is not passive, proof that presence matters, proof that 19 years of showing up, even when the world says stop, can change everything. Before you leave, and I want to ask you one thing, is there someone in your life who needs you to show up for them right now? Someone who needs to hear your voice? Because if Terry Wallis taught us anything, it is that your presence, your voice, your love is never wasted. Not even once. If this story moved you, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.